Alright, so I was reading Mark Gurman's latest report, and I found something that honestly surprised me. Because according to him, Apple's next Apple TV is basically on the way. Now that might not sound exciting at first, but stay with me, because this is where it gets interesting. WWDC is over. Apple talked about AI, Apple talked about Vision Pro, Apple talked about pretty much everything. But Apple TV? Almost nothing. And that's weird, because if Gurman's sources are right, Apple already has new hardware in the pipeline. So why keep it hidden? Seriously, if you've got new products coming, why not show them? And that's when I started digging through the rumors. And trust me, some of them are wild. Because these rumors aren't talking about one Apple TV. They're talking about three: a mini, an Ultra, and a Vision model. Now, before anybody jumps into the comments, no, Mark Gurman didn't confirm those names. What he confirmed is that new Apple TV hardware is on the way. The names, prices, and exact features are still based on leaks and speculation. But if these leaks are even close to accurate, Apple could be planning its biggest entertainment lineup ever. So let's start with the cheapest one. Because honestly, this might end up being the most important product out of all three. The rumored Apple TV Mini, around $39. Now think about that for a second. $39. That's cheaper than a lot of Apple accessories. And if Apple can actually hit that price, it changes everything. Because suddenly Apple isn't competing with premium streaming boxes anymore. It's competing with Roku. It's competing with Fire TV. It's competing with Google. Millions of people already own iPhones. Millions already use AirPlay. Millions already watch Apple TV+. The only thing missing is an easy way to bring all of that to every TV in the house. And that's where a mini makes sense. No fancy hardware, no expensive features, just streaming. Netflix, YouTube, Disney+, Prime Video, Apple TV+. Simple, affordable, easy to recommend. And honestly, that sounds exactly like the kind of product Apple has been missing. But here's where things start getting interesting. Because the next rumored device goes in the complete opposite direction. The Apple TV Ultra, around $499. And when I first heard that price, I had the same reaction you're probably having right now. $500. For an Apple TV. Seriously. But then I started thinking about it. What if this isn't a streaming box? What if Apple doesn't see it as a streaming box anymore? Because according to several leaks, this thing could be packed with hardware, more memory, a much faster chip, Wi-Fi 7, Apple Intelligence, advanced Siri, gaming features, smart home controls, FaceTime support, potentially a camera system. And suddenly, at $499 price starts making a little more sense. Think about your living room today. You've got a TV, a streaming box, maybe a smart speaker, maybe a smart home hub, maybe a gaming console. Now imagine Apple combining several of those things into one device. That's a completely different product. And here's the question nobody seems to be asking. Why would Apple need a powerful chip for a streaming box? Seriously. Netflix doesn't need it. YouTube doesn't need it. Disney Plus doesn't need it. So what is all that hardware for? And I think the answer is AI. Because look at what Apple is doing right now. Everything is becoming AI powered. Your phone, your Mac, your iPad, everything. So why would the TV be any different? Imagine sitting on your couch and saying, find me a good action movie under 2 hours. Done. Or show me the highest rated sci-fi movies from the last 5 years. Done. Or find the scene where Iron Man first meets Spider-Man. No typing, no searching, no scrolling through 5 different apps. Just ask. And that's actually useful, not gimmicky. Useful. Now let's talk about gaming. Because I think this is another reason Apple could be building something more powerful. For years, people laughed at Apple gaming. But things are changing. We're seeing bigger games arrive on Apple hardware. We're seeing more powerful chips. We're seeing Apple invest more resources into gaming. And if Apple TV Ultra gets a flagship level processor, gaming suddenly becomes a lot more interesting. Will it replace PlayStation? Probably not. Will it replace Xbox? Probably not. But it doesn't need to. Even capturing a small part of that market would be huge. Now here's where the story takes another turn. Because while everyone is debating the Mini and the Ultra, there's another device sitting in the background. The rumored Vision model, around $1,299. And honestly, this thing sounds insane. Because according to the leaks, the focus isn't just streaming anymore. It's immersion 8K experiences, 3D movies, spatial environments, AI-powered content discovery, massive virtual displays, the kind of experience that makes a regular TV feel old. And this is where I think Apple's long-term plan becomes obvious. Because Vision isn't competing with the Mini, and it's not competing with the Ultra. It's sitting above them. Think about it. The Mini is for people who just want to watch content. The Ultra is for people who want smart features, gaming, and AI. The Vision model is for people who want the absolute best experience possible. 3 products, 3 price points, 3 completely different users. Now let's compare them. The Mini, $39. Streaming, AirPlay, Apple services. Simple, the Ultra, $499. AI gaming, smart home controls, advanced Siri, the Vision model, $1,299 8K experiences 3D content, spatial entertainment, premium hardware, and when you look at them side by side, the strategy actually starts making sense. Because Apple isn't trying to sell the same product to everyone. It's building an entire ladder. You start with the Mini, you move to the Ultra, and eventually some users move into the Vision experience. That's classic Apple. Different products, same ecosystem, and honestly that would explain why Apple barely talked about TV hardware during WWDC. Because if these rumors are true, they're not preparing a simple refresh, they're preparing an entire lineup. And maybe that's why they're staying quiet. Because once Apple finally shows these devices, people won't be comparing them to Roku anymore. They'll be comparing them to each other. And that's a completely different conversation. Now again, let's be clear. The names are not confirmed. The prices are not confirmed. The final specs are not confirmed. But the reason this story matters is because it started with Mark Gurman's report. And when one of the most reliable Apple insiders says new Apple TV hardware is coming, people pay attention. Because more often than not, he's right, which brings us back to the original question. Why didn't Apple talk about it? Why keep everything behind closed doors? Why stay silent after WWDC? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe these rumors are completely wrong. Or maybe Apple is getting ready to surprise everybody. And if that's true, the next Apple event could end up being a lot more interesting than anyone expects. So what do you think? Would you buy the $39 Mini, the $499 Ultra, or would you go all the way and get the $1299 Vision model? Let me know in the comments. Because I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more about these devices very soon.